Good evening. We have two events tonight. The first is a public hearing of the Urbana City Council. We are going to be holding a hearing to receive public input on an ordinance approving an amendment to an annexation agreement, 2707 East Airport Road, Terrence A. Belaski. Will the clerk please call the roll?
City Council Member Ammons.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Hazen.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Roberts. Wu.
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here. Does anyone wish to address the Urbana City Council in this public hearing? Okay. Seeing no public input, this hearing is adjourned. Thank you very much. And I'll turn this over to Jared Miller for the Committee of the Whole meeting tonight.
Good evening, everyone. Got a long agenda tonight, so get buckled in. But let's try and keep it on topic, keep it moving. I'll do my best, and we'll start it off with a roll call.
City Council Member Ammons. Here. Brown.
Here.
Hazen.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Roberts. Wu.
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here.
All right, we have minutes from our previous meeting on July 24th, 2017. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes or any corrections, Bill Brown?
I move approval. Second.
Moved by Bill, seconded by Eric Jacobson. We do just voice vote. All right. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Seeing none, that motion passes.
Smart ass in a big group.
All right, we'll move on to any additions. I sure hope there are not. No additions? All right, no additions. So we will go to public input. I have two public input cards, one from the Bishop King James Underwood, who wishes to address the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer problem. He chooses not to address the members, but asks that his position be entered into the record, that they are continually concerned about the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer problem and the historic impact. I have one more card from David Borchers, but does not wish to speak until the topic on the agenda that he's concerned about comes up. Is there anyone else who wishes to address the Urbana City Council at this time? Thank you. All right, so presentations. Doesn't look like we have any listed on the board. Mr. Ammons.
Good evening. Thank you, Jared. Appreciate that. It's not an actual presentation, but I wanted to share one of the reasons, or the reason why I was not able to make the meeting last Monday was because I was honored. I am honored to have been chosen as one of the 40 Edgar Fellows who were at a 5-day training with former Governor Jim Edgar and members of the IGPA staff from on campus. It was a tremendous event, or I should say training, 5 days of intense training with speakers who came from across the aisle, retired and current members, and we had pretty strenuous conversations or intense conversations about basically the difference between running a business and running government and the importance of compromise in that process. Just really trying to emphasize the importance of how to get things done on the behalf of the public. And it was just one of the most phenomenal trainings and times that I've had to be able to hear from other representatives, other city council members, mayors from other cities, past and present, people like Ray LaHood, Tony Preckwinkle, Jason Barrickman. We talked about SB1, when we just had various different conversations, the importance of negotiations, and how to go about that. It was just one of the most fruitful experiences that I've had as an organizer or as an elected official, and I just wanted to share with the public how beneficial it was. I hope to bring some of those things to the table that I learned that would hopefully make me a better council member and be a better servant to the people of Urbana. And I just wanted to send my thanks to Governor Edgar and all the folks who participated in that, all the speakers who came, and to also just sort of give it a pub. Anyone out there looking to make some, to help out a program that's very helpful. The Edgar Fellows program is something that I strongly recommend that you look at, learn more about, and maybe donate to or give to in some form or fashion, your time or something like that. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Jacobson.
Any chance that we could talk Governor Edgar into coming out of retirement?
That was discussed, but I think he's done. He's. I learned a lot about Governor Edgar and the work and the people that he had in his office with him. And I should say, so my wife doesn't jump on me when I get home, that she was also a part of that in the 2015 class. I was a part of the 6th class. She was a part of that 4th one. But there was lots of conversations around governors and possibility. And in fact, Juliana Stratton, who is going to be, she is running as lieutenant governor with one of the gentlemen who's running for governor. She did the presentation on negotiations. So there was a lot of stuff around governors. But no, Jim Edgar is not coming out of retirement for that.
Thank you both. All right. So, anyone else? Presentations? Nope. But I see Libby's coming up forward for a staff report.
Good evening.
Good evening.
A few things happened in July. Red Bicycle Ice Cream opened after much anticipation. We talked to them, and they actually sold out of product during their soft opening. They're still doing well down in South Urbana. And they, in August, added a new flavor and included the locally sourced autumn berries sorbet. So check that out. During July, staff completed some different learning and outreach. These included meeting with Collider Cowork and Personify, meeting with 7 potential new businesses, taking part in an MC economic modeling software webinar, as well as a retail recruitment webinar, and attending iVenture Demo Day, which we were happy to see many of you there as well. Other new businesses and development, Salt and Light submitted plans for 1819 Philo, and they're expected to put out some more information on that shortly. Aldi completed their, is under construction, their expansion, which will be adding new product and cooler space, and Brookdale Assisted Living completed their renovation. And as you can see, that'll be Salt and Light, Brookdale, and Red Bicycle, all in South Urbana, Carl and Spark Cafe, some new development in downtown, and Aldi out west. Some events that are coming up. The Business and Development Luncheon is actually full. It will be at Silver Creek, and it has 72 people coming, and will be about transportation in Champaign-Urbana. It is joint with Champaign and sponsored by First Federal. If you are looking for some networking that day and you're not going to the Business and Development Luncheon, the UVA is having a Connections Over Coffee that day, 7:30 a.m. till 9 a.m. at Tricoci University, 202 East University. Also with the UVA, the Sweet Corn Festival is coming up August 25th to 26th. They're still looking for volunteers, so contact them about that. The Urbana First Fridays in downtown Urbana will be on September 1st, and Pygmalion Festival on the 20th to the 24th of September. Some other events to keep on your radar, there's the Food Truck Rally coming up on August 29th, 11 to 2. Urbana Movie Nights, August 19th, will be Ratatouille by Urbana Love. And the Urbana Farmers Market Week happened last week, and we wanted to point that out. So for Think Urbana, there was 2 new projects in July, which added 3 new units. And there's some other data for you to peruse as you'd like. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Libby? Thank you, Libby. All right, so first up tonight, we have ordinance number 2017-08-044, an ordinance authorizing the dedication of right-of-way at 2201 Fowler Road. Public Works, Mr. Bill Gray presenting.
Good evening. City Council recently approved the purchase of 2201 South Philo Road, which is adjacent to the South Fire Station Number 2 on Philo Road. And in the process of acquiring that lot, we found that the parcel itself never dedicated or had right-of-way contributed to Philo Road, and in fact its ownership was to the center line. Typically in the subdivision process, historically, right-of-way, appropriate amount of right-of-way is dedicated to the highway authority, in our case the city, to not only maintain and own the roadway but also manage right-of-way uses such as utilities and such. So what this action tonight is to dedicate the easterly 40-foot of this lot, which would match exactly with the right-of-way north and south on Philo Road. And it's more of a formality, but it should be done. And then the balance of the lot would certainly be for city use in the future. And it's still city property, but it's just formality of it being dedicated as public right-of-way. Nothing else changes. The future use of the lot doesn't change, but it's land that appropriately should be part of the Philo Road right-of-way.
Are there any council questions for Bill? Seeing none, I'd like to ask for a motion.
I move sending this item to full council with recommendation for approval.
I'll second it.
Motion by Eric Jacobson and seconded by Dean Hazen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Seeing none, that motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have a resolution number 2017-08-050R, a resolution to approve an intergovernmental agreement, an agreement between the City of Urbana, the Urbana Free Library, and Champaign County regarding cooperative purchase of internet service. IT will be taking this one. Sanford Hess.
Thank you. I'm here mostly to answer questions, but very briefly, this was an idea that was brought to us. We already purchase our internet service from the ICN, which is a part of the state of Illinois, as does the county, and the idea was we can combine our purchasing power and reduce our costs. So that's the proposal.
Are any questions from the council?
Ms. Wu.
Ms. Mary Alice Wu.
So I had two questions. My first question was I was a little confused by some of the numbers here. I understand that you were saying by combining the purchasing power, we'll pay 1/6 of the cost of the purchase of 300 megabits. So how many megabits do we purchase a month?
Currently, we're going to move up to 50. Currently, we're at about it's 25 megabits per. Actually, I wish I had the papers in front of me. It's a throughput per minute, I think, right? What's the acronym?
Megabits per second.
Megabits per second.
So it's more of a sort of capacity. I always think about internet like a water pipe, and this is how big our pipe is. So our pipe is currently 25, and it's going to go to 50. So our bandwidth will increase.
So just on average, how much does it cost a month? Does it cost $427.50 a month, or is that what we'll be paying?
Currently, we pay $427.50 per month.
Okay, and so it'll go down.
It'll go down to $200 a month.
So you're saving about $230 a month, right?
Right.
Okay, but we have to purchase $2,500, a piece of equipment for $2,500,
Right.
right?
Right.
So
So
how,
it'll take-
what is the
it'll take-
lifetime of that?
The lifetime of the equipment, we usually assume most equipment has a lifetime of 5 years.
Okay, all right.
So it'll take about a year to offset the price of the equipment.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I'd like to call for a motion.
I move sending this item to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Moved by Eric Jacobson, seconded by Aaron Ammons. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, seeing none, that resolution passes. Thank you. All All right, up next, we have ordinance number 2017-08-038, an ordinance approving an annexation agreement, 801 North Smith Road. Mr. David Borchers will take presentation from staff, and Mr. Borchers, you'll have a chance to speak after presentation from staff and questions to staff.
Good evening. I have just a brief PowerPoint visual to assist the discussion of this case for the annexation agreement and petition. So before, I just thought I'd briefly go over the process by which the zoning is determined for annexation. Obviously, annexation agreements are reached for lots of properties outside the city, many of them rural, for when they are to be potentially annexed into the city into the future. Sometimes an agreement is reached, but the petition is not filed until years later when it's finally contiguous. In this case, this subject property is contiguous with the city, so the petition is following the annexation agreement concurrently. Two ways that we determine how zoning a property might be zoned if it were annexed into the city. One measure is through the comprehensive plan. That is through the planning effort that the city does every so often, not just for the properties within its borders, but also the properties just outside its borders. And the city has a 1.5 mile extraterritorial jurisdiction to which they have certain control over, but also the city plans for immediate areas within that zone. The comprehensive plan is put together through a thorough and very public process that involves public input, a lot of information finding, a lot of analysis, visioning, etc., to determine the best possible use, or to determine how that future use shall be determined for that property. It's a process that takes many months, sometimes takes over a year or two. It depends. The city's last comprehensive plan was in 2005. And whenever a property is annexed into the city, usually in the annexation agreement, the zoning is determined, the future zoning is determined in that annexation agreement. Sometimes if a property is annexed and there is no zoning request change in the agreement, there is what we call a direct conversion table. That would mean that by default, a property according to the county's zoning system would be corresponded the most similar district in the city's zoning system. But a lot of the properties that are annexed out, that the city reaches annexation agreements with, are vacant land or farmland that is to be developed in the near or immediate future. So annexation requests for County AG1 and County AG2 properties are not uncommon. So the current property is 801 North Smith Road. That is on the eastern edge of the city, right near the intersection of University Avenue and Interstate 74 West. You will notice the surrounding uses to the north. There is a retired landfill It's also where the city's Arbor Division keeps its offices. Towards the northwest is the Landscape Recycling Center. Towards the west is the Flex and Gate facility as well. They own several of those vacant parcels just to the west of the subject property, which is striped in the yellow. You'll see a little bit further west, you see the mixed commercial and light industrial uses towards that area. Towards the south and immediately east of the subject property, there are 2 mobile home parks. Just a little bit east, there's a single-family home on 2 different tracks close to the intersection of University Avenue and Interstate 74. And then across University Avenue, there's more residential, which is within the county. It's 11.47 acres. It has the county zoning designation of AG2 agriculture. And it's been used indefinitely as farmland as of now as well. At one point, there was a single-family home on the farmhouse on the property, but that has since been demolished. It would be a good idea to go over the brief history of the property. Within the city's comprehensive plan final report from 1967 to 1968, that area was designated as light industry for its future land use designation, as well as some of the surrounding area as well. There's a circle over just showing where the current subject property and neighboring properties are. At some point in the early 70s, the 2 mobile home parks were constructed. The city had designated that area as light industry, although the mobile home parks were constructed anyways. Well, the city does have the ability to plan in that area. It was still under county jurisdiction for zoning and for land use at that point. In the nearby landfill operated through the 1980s. Oh, whoops. It was retired in 1988. The city of Urbana, in the most recent comprehensive plan in 2005, through its planning process of some of those factors of public input as well as information finding, visioning, et cetera, came up with the future land use designation of industrial for that property. The current applicant, Mr. David Borchers, is the owner of the property now. He has requested an annexation agreement with the city and an annexation petition as well for the property to be annexed into the city. Within that proposal, he is requesting a zoning from county AG2 agricultural to city IN1 light industrial office. It's an annexation agreement with immediate petition. Also within that annexation agreement, he is requesting a conditional construction yard as a conditional use. Within annexation agreements, the city and the property owner do have the ability to come to an agreement on a conditional use permit or in some cases a special use permit. In this case, the desired use that the applicant would like to use the property for requires a conditional use in the IN1 light industrial office district. So a construction yard conditional use permit can be approved as part of an annexation agreement. He would like to install a construction yard on the northeast portion of the property, a building of 10,000 square feet. Have approximately 5 to 7 parking spaces in accordance with requirements from the, given his business proposal with our zoning ordinance requirements. It would be 3 to 5 employees on the premise at most on any given workday, and it would be set back approximately 75 feet from the street, as included in the general area plan, which is an exhibit of the annexation agreement. I should briefly describe the applicant's business. Mr. Borchers has a construction business that does internal construction. It's called Borchers Decorating, so it's just smaller scale construction, interior construction for commercial spaces, I believe. And he states that the majority of his employees usually work out in the field, so that's why most of his employees will be located outside of the building, but just this building will be for just kind of a home base and contain, 3 or 4 employees at any given moment. He intends to allow the rest of the property to be used as farmland for the time being. He would like to potentially develop the property in the future with a potential subdivision, and this is how that might be divided amongst 4 different properties. You'll see in the upper right-hand corner where it's the lettering is kind of hard to read, but that indicates where his construction yard that would be granted by the conditional use permit would be located. There's a hypothetical public right-of-way and street you'll see through the center of the property with access off the eastern portion of the property from Smith Road. That would be the location of where it would, if the rest of the property were subdivided and developed, where that street, it would be a cul-de-sac that was agreed upon between the city's Public Works and Community Development departments and the property owner. So the proposal was heard before the Urbana Plan Commission. Some of the plan commissioners, after hearing public input, expressed concerns about traffic, the access point off of Smith Road, and noise. The city engineer, you'll see in some of the information indicated in the memorandum, also spoke before the Plan Commission, gave information about traffic counts based off of trip generation standards used throughout, universally used throughout the country, indicating that based on the density of the mobile home parks and the sort of use that they generate, about 700 vehicle trips per day with a high traffic volume of peak hour of 70 vehicles. If the subject property, 11.47 acres, were to be developed, fully developed for light industrial with a high estimate of, because there's a varying range of given light industrial uses, with a varying estimate, a varying range, and given that the highest estimate in that range, at most, the additional traffic would be 600 vehicles per day with a peak hour traffic volume of approximately 60 vehicles. Most of those vehicles would be eastbound in the morning, westbound in the late afternoon and the evening. At max, it would be no more than 1 vehicle per minute. The city engineer stated that it would require no improvements for the intersections at Butzow Drive and Guardian Drive, or Guardian Drive and University Avenue. And it would not require any changes to the area's level of service. In response to the Plan Commission meeting was continued from its first meeting because they desired to see some changes to the annexation agreement. As part of that, the applicant agreed with the city to restrict several uses that were permitted by right that would be inappropriate to the area. Those would include a convenience store, motor bus station, truck terminal, truck wash, automobile truck, trailer, or boat sales or rental, gasoline station, truck rental, truck stop, and towing service. Another change was the applicant agreed to install additional screening and buffering towards the south and towards the east for any part of the subject property as it was developed. That would be 1 tree and 3 shrubs for every 30 feet of frontage. That is in addition to, not in place of, that is in addition to zoning ordinance requirements for screening of off-street parking, screening of industrial uses facing residential uses, or screening of outside materials. The screening and landscaping would basically be submitted through a landscaping plan submitted with any building permit. So any part of the property that is developed would be required to have screening along with its normal approval of its construction plans. Part of that would be the immediate planting of the first 200 feet along the northeast frontage along Smith Road. because of the construction yard that would be put in with approval of the annexation agreement and petition. So as further parts of the property are developed, the screening would then go up to provide the buffering and protection from that respective development. So the Plan Commission voted with a decision of 4-3 to not approve a recommendation of approval of the annexation agreement based off of the staff analysis of the property. First off, there is what's called the LaSalle criteria. That is based off a court case, LaSalle National Bank versus County of Cook, in which every municipality in the state must consider for a set of criteria based off of whether a land use is proper for rezoning or not. We have to consider this because there's a rezoning request in the annexation agreement proposal. And based off several factors, just to summarize the 6 criteria, the fact that the property is zoned for industrial development in the future, as well as its proximity to major interchange on the interstate, as well as its proximity to other business sites that it works with in the city, and as well as the ability to, in staff's opinion, blend in appropriately with nearby development as well as residential development. The staff staff has a recommendation of approval for the rezoning request in the annexation agreement. Along with the conditional use permit in section 7.2a of the Urbana zoning ordinance, there are several criteria which the city must assess for whether a permit is appropriate to be granted or not. And again, it goes with the fact that a construction yard would be consistent with the nearby industrial uses, as well as the fact that there are protections in place that can be put in the annexation agreement, as well as zoning ordinance requirements for buffering and screening towards any public right-of-way or residential use, and that based off information regarding any possible increase in traffic as well. So with that information said, the staff recommendation was for approval of the annexation agreement and the annexation petition. Just briefly, a fiscal impact estimate that I did off what the property might hypothetically contribute to the city's tax revenue based off of a tax rate of several similar uses within city limits of lower profile areas that had a construction business. It would contribute approximately, the property with a construction yard on the northeast portion would pay around $9,325.40. The city portion of that would be $1,100 and $1,188 as well. I also should mention, going back to the restricted uses that were agreed to in the annexation agreement, there are other uses that are permissible for that property in the IN1 district, but they still require a special use permit or a conditional use permit. So if there were other uses that were to be proposed for the area, they would still have to be vetted by a public board or commission. These ones were just permitted by right. So were there any questions?
Bill Brown.
I noticed that the road is concrete within the city limits there. What's the surface of the road for Smith Road and the rest of, what was it, Buttsall Drive? Are those, is it asphalt or oil and chip?
It's chip and seal.
Chip and, okay.
And the city engineer is here, and he can fill in some gaps if needed.
And so Buttsall Drive, a lot of that would still be outside the city, but would we take over all of Smith Road along the property?
The portion of Smith Road where it begins to go directly north would be annexed by the city, but Butso Drive would remain within the city limits of, or I'm sorry, would remain under the county.
Okay, and then when you talked about the traffic estimates, that would be the total basically leaving Butsaw Drive. I mean, the total combined with both trailer, both mobile home parks right now is about 600, so the actual portion coming down Smith Road would probably be a lot less than that.
Well, the estimates for the current mobile home parks was 700, and then the estimates for the additional industrial development would be 600. So yeah, the traffic bound along Smith Drive and entering and exiting the area.
Okay.
Just to add, the intent of that is just to show what would be the impact to the east leg of that intersection of Guardian Drive and Butzel Drive.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Eric Jacobson.
So just to clarify on the traffic, I mean, that additional 600 vehicles per day sounds really high for a business with 3 or 4 employees, or is that if the whole property
That's
is
for
developed?
the whole, a full
That would be
build-out.
if the whole property
Yeah.
were developed, okay. The mobile home parks are in Urbana now, is that correct?
No, they are
Oh.
part of the county.
They're part of the county?
Yes.
And what is their current zoning status in the county?
It's County R5.
R5, okay.
It's a manufactured home park.
Okay. There were several additional restrictions on the use of the property that Mr. Borchers agreed to between the 2 meetings of the Plan Commission. Were there any requested restrictions by the Plan Commission that Mr. Borchers did not agree to, or did he agree to everything?
No, the conversation with the Plan Commission was generally about the potential types of uses if it were to be more fully developed, and so it was an agreement between staff and Mr. Borchers as to some uses that would be inappropriate for the area that he would be
Okay.
comfortable with not applying. So it wasn't by direct
Okay.
direction from.
But those conversations with Mr. Borchers took place between the 2 meetings, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I may think about something else as the discussion goes forward, but that's it for now.
Vigas.
So I'm curious about the conditional use permit. Once the conditional use permit is in place, is it in place for 20 years? What's the time frame on that?
The annexation agreement expires after 20 years, but the conditional use permit would be in place continually as long as the use is continual.
So if they sold the property, would that kind of go along with the sale of the property, or
If the
how
use
does that work?
if the use was the same, and it was continual.
Okay, all right. And then this is just curiosity on my part. So the land currently is under the county, it's not under the city. So why does the city include it in the comprehensive plan?
Because the city includes future land use planning for areas just outside of its city borders for when they might be included with the city someday. Because the main reason that this property is being requested to be annexed into the city is that most properties in rural parts of the city or the county have septic systems, but there are state rules, Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District rules as well, that if your property was within so much distance of a sewer line, that they must connect to that line as opposed to a septic system. It varies, but generally, if it's within 200 feet, they're required to connect, and to connect with the city has a policy of requiring an annexation agreement.
But the mobile homes aren't required to connect? Because it would seem like they would be closer to the sewer
They
line.
were installed before these current rules were in place, if I understand correctly. So if they were to add any new sewer connections, they would then be required to annex to the city. But
Okay.
they're operating under their existing systems that they've used for
Okay.
years.
And then I noticed in the meeting notes for the first planning commission, I haven't read the ones we just got, there was, the mobile homes had sent a letter to the planning commission, but I did not see that letter anywhere. Did I overlook it?
It's, should be at the end of the packet. It was a protected
Oh, this one right here.
PDF file, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
And that was from the organization that owns and manages both of the mobile home parks. It was a
Okay.
woman representing both of them.
All right, and were they in general opposed, or are they in favor of it?
They expressed opposition.
Okay, and so since I haven't read the letter, can you summarize why they were opposed to it?
They had expressed concerns about just nearby industrial development and noise and traffic as well. Some of the similar concerns that the Plan Commission had experienced as well, and just the effect that development might have on the residents who live in those parks.
Okay, all right. And then, let's see, I had one final question. Yes, so there's items that you listed that they have agreed not to build in the other 3 parcels, right? So what could they or can they build anything by right?
Well, it might not necessarily be the other 3. It might be 2, or it might be.
Sure.
But anyways, yeah, they would be permitted to construct anything that's in the city's table of uses, which is in its zoning ordinance. That's just there are different rights that are permitted by, some things that are permitted by right, and then, as I mentioned, also some things that are require conditional use permits as well as special use permits in some cases. And those 2 instances require a vetting by or approval by a city board or commission.
So there's certain things that they're allowed to just do by right without going through the city, as long as it's zoned this way, and then there's other things that they have to go through conditional permit.
Yeah.
Yes, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And I
I
could.
apparently have the pages now, so.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary Alice. Any other questions for staff? Eric Jacobson.
So for the proposed near-term use of the construction yard and for other uses that might be permitted there, is it possible to project what types of vehicles? I mean, are we talking about pickup trucks? Or are we talking about vehicles that are larger and louder than that? Or is that, what are we envisaging?
You want me to answer that, or?
Yeah.
I think it's hard to predict. I think Mr. Borchers could probably answer the sorts of vehicles that would be servicing his business. From the testimony he gave at the Plan Commission meeting, it sounded like an occasional semi-truck delivery of materials or that sort of thing, but depends on what the users are of the other balance of the industrial park. But to give you order of magnitude, it would be not unheard of if maybe 10% of those 600 vehicles were semis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe 60 a day would be
Yeah.
a pretty high number to think about over the course of a work day or a day, if you will. Those were concerns raised by some of the testimony that I heard at the Plan Commission meeting. But to know exactly, we don't know until we know what businesses go in there. But
Right.
if it's 11.5 acres, if it's light industrial zoned, I think we can expect that there would be semi-trucks. Maybe you could say occasional semi-trucks, but there would be semi-trucks on that road. For your information, frame of reference, Public Works does have the Arbor Division that works out of that building just north of this site.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the forestry section, the landscape section, of course, the landscape recycling center is on site. But every workday, we do have trucks
Mm-hmm.
that use Smith Road to go about their work. Granted, we're not talking semi or multi-units, but they're single-unit vehicles or trucks that use that every workday too. So there are vehicles, are doing, if you will, of Public Works on a workday that uses that road. But if you want to something to figure on, maybe 10% of a fully built-out site, 50, 60 semis in a day. That would be a pretty high number.
Yeah. So we're really talking about the kind of businesses or enterprises that might receive up to a few times a day a delivery from semis, but we're not talking about something that where raw materials or small parts come in and semis go out loaded with product. That would not probably happen in light industrial.
I can't answer that.
Okay. Yep.
Anything else, Eric? Mr. Ammons?
Yes, so I don't know if Bill or you would like to answer this, but I don't know, what I've read suggests to me that there's a lot of cost and a lot of time and energy that have been put into Airport Road. And there's, based upon what staff and Mr. Bocher have agreed to, sounds like you're really concerned about heavy traffic coming up and down this road. The different businesses that would be off limits, towing service, truck, it's always something to do with heavy vehicles. So Bill, is there concern about us having to go through TIF money and IDOT money and everything to build this road up, to now have some concern about the wear and tear or the ability to maintenance the road?
I don't have that near a concern as Airport Road. I use that as an example at the meeting, but currently it's in reasonably good condition. It is maintained by the township, and they chip and seal it every so many years, so there's no existing or immediate concern for the road. Even with this build out here, I don't say that's a huge concern that we would have with respect to that. Certainly we watch and want to maintain and keep in good maintenance. Airport Road, the context of that was, would we be reconstructing it or rebuilding it anytime soon? And Airport Road was an example of much higher volumes. It was a chip and seal road that there's a hauler that has a business up there, Frasca, many other homes and businesses. It's a much larger area than the 20, 30 acres here. We're talking hundreds of acres of being served up there, so much higher volumes. And but sure, over time, it's a possibility that there might be that concern, but it isn't a reason that we wouldn't want development to occur.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I should also add that those restricted uses were not talked about with Mr. Borchers and included in the agreement by means of concerns about the condition of the road, more so just as trying to separate some of the traffic-heavy uses that were permitted by right in IN1 in regards to the concerns of the nearby residents. So,
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Bill Brown.
Yeah, just one more about the road maintenance. So it looks like it's pretty broken up between city and county, and I also noticed that Bar Avenue looks like it's in the city border, most of it, but then the end of it looks like county. Is this one of those areas where for snow plowing we have an agreement with the township or the township, I guess, to plow parts of it or all of it, or we plow all of it and trade with other parts that they own? Who's responsible for plowing this area?
Urbana Township's responsible, and they would maintain that responsibility if this gets annexed into the city.
So we've traded something else. We plow some of their roads in exchange for this. But
Exactly,
they
we do.
maintain
Yes.
responsibility for this area. Okay.
That's correct.
Thanks.
Any other questions from council for staff? Seeing none, thank you guys.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to call up David Borchers. Good evening.
Hi, my name's David Borchers. Just wanted to explain what we're doing and everything. My wife and I, we started our business 42 years ago. And I was born and raised in Urbana. My wife went to high school here. We're committed on working in Urbana and creating jobs. and stuff. We've purchased a building downtown with another couple, and we're developing it right now. We're bringing jobs. The Wicked Rascal Barber Shop is one of them that's going to be opening soon, and we're creating 4 apartments upstairs, and then we still have retail space available down there. And so we'd like to bring our construction business to Urbana, and as it grows, the area there, we'd like to develop another building at a later date. Of course, it won't be for a few years, I'm sure, but we're going to continue farming everything, the rest of it, and the concerns on the big trucks. It's basically going to be if we have a delivery over 50 pounds. The trucks that we have for our company are not as large as the ones the Arbor's trucks have, like that. And I think we'd be a good buffer for the mobile home park for Guardian West if they happen to expand, because they adjoin our property. And we've, agreed to do additional screening and limit the businesses that can be allowed there, and most of them are related to heavy trucks and so forth like that. So, we intend to be a good neighbor.
Thank you, Mr. Borchers. Any questions from council for Mr. Borchers? Ms. Marialis.
I was just curious what drew you to this area, what helped you decide to buy this piece of property?
Well, we were just moving, our business property was sold to a larger developer, the Atkins Group, where our office was. And so we've seen this property, and we live on this part of the country, and so it only made sense, and since we already had the project downtown Urbana going, it was a good fit for us.
Thank you.
Mayor Marlin.
Could you describe what your construction yard would look like on this site?
Basically, I didn't bring anything with me. I did last time. It's going to be a pre-engineered pole barn. Okay, it's going to have a different color on the bottom and up on the top.
Like a Morton building?
Yes, like a Morton building. Yes, yeah. And we'll of course have shrubs and everything to screen it off. We'd prefer not to put a fence up because we like to look at it, that it's inviting, not contained. But like I say, for outside screening, if we need to have a fence up, we'll put one up and everything else will be located in the back, and it'll just be car parking in the front, or pickup truck. And we thought, as we built out there's no places for small businesses in Urbana to grow right now. Champaign has multiple places, for small contractors, small service businesses to locate their building. There's nothing here in Urbana. There's one spot on University Avenue down there. Tapman has some stuff that isn't built out on Philo Road, or 130 there. And I think Urbana needs a place like ours, to generate some small business and some jobs.
So are you storing materials mostly inside?
Mostly inside, yes. Yeah, we have some, be some metal studs that would be outside that we wouldn't. And it's not, we don't stock materials. It'd be something we have left over from a job. Okay. We have everything delivered to the job. Okay. So it's something special that we couldn't, if there's not a forklift or something on the job or something, because it's going to be packaged in a large amount, we'd bring it to the shop and then break it down and take it out the job. And most of our stuff is bought like from FBM or Nagler Materials, which FBM just moved to Urbana, which is a good benefit, a material supplier for our type of work. And Armstrong Lumber is a supplier of ours.
And your type of work is indoor?
Interior construction.
Interior construction.
Yeah, like we did we just remodeled the inside of Snooks there in Urbana, and we made the old Corkscrew into a Sherwin-Williams paint store, and we did the courthouse, the tower, and the stuff in there on the inside, and other numerous projects.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Mariels?
So I'm curious, it sounds like you do interior work on site. Is that correct?
Yes.
So if it's a construction area, what kind of construction are you going to be doing on this property? It's not just a
None.
warehouse,
None.
right?
None.
So what's the difference between having it classified as a warehouse versus a construction?
It's just if, like,
Site.
we'll have, like, a truck will be parked outside, so that's why I assume we'd have to have, for a construction yard. So we have, like, a flatbed truck, a one-ton truck, okay? Pickup trucks, we have some vans, We'd have a dumpster out back, okay? So, I mean, like, if people brought material back, and, we'd sort through, what's good, what's not, and stockpile that and save it for, damage or whatever, something in the future. So that's why we're requesting a construction yard. We're not going to build anything on site.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Lori, did you want to expand on that?
I thought I'd just give you the definition of construction yard per the zoning ordinance. A construction yard is an area for the storage of building material and equipment, which is required to be enclosed by other sections of the ordinance. Temporary or on-site construction storage or staging area shall not be considered a construction yard.
Thank you.
Yes.
Aaron?
I'm sorry.
That's all right. So certainly it's good to hear directly from you on what your intentions are, and certainly sounds like you intend to be a good neighbor, and I'm appreciative to hear some of the other things that you've worked on. When you do the type of work that you do, let's say whether it's Schnucks or the Clock Tower, do you have a team that does this already, or do you have to contract out?
We have guys that work for me, and then, like, we're a union shop, so if we need more people, we go to the union hall and request additional help.
And how many employees do you have?
We have 12 right now.
And you said you are a union shop.
Yes, yep.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Borchers? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have a few options we can approve via staff recommendation, but not from the Planning Commission. Approve with any changes, if anyone has changes they would like to see, or we can deny and send this back. Do I have a motion from anyone in either of those three cases? Mr. Jacobson.
I'll move to send this ordinance to the full council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
All right, moved by Eric Jacobson, seconded by Aaron Ammons. We'll take a vote.
We're going to have
All those in-
discussion.
Huh?
Discussion.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Is there any discussion?
Sure.
Bill?
Yeah, I'm inclined to,
You asked if we could speak.
oh, I think we might have more public input. Do you want to wait for that?
Yeah.
Sure. Sir, would you like to
Yes.
come speak?
I'm Alan Dial. I own the property to the east on Bar Avenue. Questions I have, or the input I have, from what I found out, according to the engineer that was here the last meeting, said the road had to be 20 feet wide, which has been measured and been checked. I was an engineer in the service, so I know how to use a tape measure. I found places in there barely 16 feet. Most of them was 17 feet. It's not even up to code now for what the state says. If you talk to the DOT in Paris, minimum 20 feet. The other part is Bar Avenue. I snowplow that in half or 30 years. I've oiled and chipped it twice because Delbert Jenkins, when he was road commissioner, he said it wasn't his. Talked to the city, they said it wasn't theirs. So nobody plowed it but me. But that's neither here nor there. I'm just telling you, that's who takes care of the road. Now the city and the township has come together and they fix the road. They do a good job on it. That's not a problem. But coming down from Butzo Drive, the first curve coming into Chief Illini Trailer Court, that's less than 17 feet you got two big automobiles, or say a truck and a bus, which there's a lot of buses come through there. They could pick up kids. They're not going to be able to pass unless somebody gets off in the grass or over next to the ditch. And it's been that way. And it's not going to change unless it's repaired. And I don't think $1,188 is going to fix that road. The other thing is nobody's had any concern about the families living there and the danger it puts these people into if there is a wreck, somebody pulls out of the trailer court and a big truck runs into them. I think it's something needs to be fixed with the road before anything can be passed to my know. I mean, you're putting people in danger here. Nobody seems to care about that. And as far as what he's going to do, you open this up, he can put anything in there he wants to. Light industry also includes a lumber yard, right? That takes big trucks. That takes semis. It also could be a drywall business, anything like that. And nobody's had, I know he said there's certain things he didn't want to do, but those are some of the things he could do, and being a construction person probably would do. I mean, you put that kind of money into one little square, you're not going to leave the rest of the ground open, and I don't think you make enough money off planting potatoes or tomatoes or anything like that. It's just ridiculous to think that other acreage is not going to be used or sold. If you pass it, then anybody that buys it can use it for whatever they want. You've opened it up to anybody. And that's about all I can think of right now.
Sir, could you just state your name one more time?
Alan Dial.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Dow? Mr. Ames.
I don't know if it's a clearly formulated question, but I want to give you an opportunity to, take your time and express what your concerns are, because I think you've raised at least a couple of things we should speak to that I don't think we did. If there's some regulations that the road has to be 20 feet wide, then I think we should hear from Bill or whoever would speak to this and at least try to alleviate some of those concerns or address those concerns that you've raised. When you spoke of plowing a particular stretch of road, are you saying you still plow that particular stretch of road?
Yes.
And you're saying that no one, the city or the township, no one says that it's their responsibility?
That's what they used to say. But I've had a couple of meetings with the city, and we get along fine. I started plowing the road because nobody else wanted to, which is fine. They plow in all the way through up to the gate where the reclamation center is, and I plow from bar down to my house. I plow that myself. And like I say, I did oil and chip it for a couple of years, which I've maintained it for 30 years. And then finally, when we had this little meeting with the city, they came in and oiled and chipped it, because they would back trash trucks up on the road waiting to go into reclamation, and usually dump leaves mostly in the wintertime when the leaves was real bad and everything like that. Mm-hmm. And they really tore up the road bad, just the garbage trucks. And we had a little get together, and they, well, what do you want? I said, fix the road back like it should be and then stay off of it. And I'll plow it from there. And they still come out and oil and chip it. And I think Jimmy Prather helps from the township. He takes care of, a share of it. I don't know, but I do all the plowing part of it.
And then the other concern about, and I think Mary Alice, you spoke to this, that there are certain things that would not have to come back to the council. If we change the zoning on this, there's certain things that will be open for that we would not have to approve. Whoever owned the space, if Mr. Borcher decided to sell it, whoever else bought it, they could just come in and open up a lumber yard or a drywall business, and it's completely legitimate and we wouldn't have any say-so about that. Is that correct?
That's what I understood.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that as well.
Any of the listed on the permitted list, permitted uses list, except for those that are written in the annexation agreement not to be allowed, would be permitted with the appropriate building permits, yes.
So why wasn't lumber yard and drywall business and stuff included into that list?
And Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the intent was to really look at the potential traffic generators So those that have the largest potential for truck traffic in particular. So that's why things like truck terminal and truck wash and those kinds of uses were thought to be more of the traffic generators, and therefore, since that was one of the concerns expressed at Plan Commission, therefore perhaps some of those uses should not be allowed.
Mr. Borcher is here. I don't know, are those things that, well, you wouldn't be able to control those things if you happen to sell the business or sell that space anyway, though, right? You wouldn't be in control of what other people wanted to do with that space.
I would be willing to exclude a lumber yard or a drywall supply yard, if that would make Mr. Dial happy.
Well, I'm just saying anything like that, but whoever he sold it to could put anything in there they wanted to. It's not necessarily a lumber yard, it could be a steel yard. You know, it's just, that's the way it is.
I understand, yeah.
And
So-
I'm not the one that brought up the 20-foot. The engineer brought it up at the last meeting at 20 foot. It's not 20 foot wide, the road is.
Okay. And then the other thing you brought up was some concerns about families or safety. And I don't know if I quite understood. You said that there aren't any heavy trucks or large vehicles that are going down this road currently that could cause any of these particular accidents or concerns that you have?
Well, any of them could, but there's not any. The city uses single axle dump trucks. And that's about the heaviest one I've seen on there. Other than your regular garbage trucks, they're pretty big, but you know what I mean. Other than that, that's about the biggest truck. The Arbor truck, a pretty good sized truck, but it's still a single axle truck. And they've had, well, the city's had semis come in out there, delivering, I think, when they, in the springtime, when they get loads of trees or whatever, they come in and store them back in there, yes.
I was just trying to give you an opportunity to speak a little more, take your time and speak to the family concerns or any sort of safety concerns.
Yeah.
But, so what I'm hearing from you is that there are already concerns that there may be a traffic accident or something like
Well,
that.
absolutely.
But you're saying that somehow this would increase the likelihood of that, or?
Well, when you got a business running, he says he got 12 employees. According to the internet, he's got 38. According to Drywall, he's on the board for LLC Drywall, so I know he has stuff to do with Drywall also. It may not come out there, but it could if you wanted it to, I suppose. You've got one lady out there that's got three children. They're not hers. I think she takes care of them. They're, I don't know if a proper way to say it, they're kind of mental. Anyway, the only transportation they have is feet. They walk that road. Clear to town and clear home. And you've got other people that walks out in there. I don't know for what reason. You had one old timer out there that walks around picking up trash for the city. So there are people that use that road for walking.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Eric?
This is really for staff.
Thank you, Mr. Dial.
Restrictions that are in restrictions of use that are written into the annexation agreement, do they stay with the property if the property is sold?
They do for the period of the annexation agreement, so that's a period of 20 years.
Okay. I guess the only other thing I would say is it sounds as though Mr. Borchers is pretty agreeable to some restrictions on, even adding further restrictions to the annexation agreement if the community, if the nearby community has specific concerns about, for example, lumberyard or drywall. So it might be a good idea perhaps to have direct communication there and see if from your perspective, situation could be improved by that kind of negotiation.
Any further discussion? Bill's speaking to the 20-foot concern of the road.
Oh, yes.
The city and the surrounding area of Urbana has a lot of what we call farm to market roads that can have varying widths, chip and seal roads. Many of them are in the city. You just go right outside the city building, you'll see chip and seal streets in the city, and their widths vary. I think with respect to regulations, when you're using state and federal dollars, yes, there's certain minimum widths you have to build to, but those are existing roads out there today, and they function as such, as access points to the trailer home, the mobile home park, to the Arbor Division facility, et cetera. If there are upgrades, using motor fuel tax monies or what have you, yes, there are regulations, if you will. There's standards that we would have to widen to make sure the streets are a certain width, but they function fine now. I'm not aware of any crash history on these streets. I don't know that there will be more crashes because of this or not, but we certainly look at what may cause crashes. Typically, and most of the time, they happen at intersections or at curves. Yes, there's a curve there. Will a school bus and a garbage truck pass each other on that curve? Does it happen today? Yeah, it can. It can happen. I don't know, haven't done any studies to know that there's a crash or safety issue that's out there now. More vehicles there, will the likelihood increase? I mean, intuitively, you'd have to say, sure, that could possibly be a case. But we look at those things. We look at that at all the 100-plus miles of streets in the city with respect to crashes and accidents, so we get data and information, and we make necessary improvements if we have to. This suggested use in and of itself would not, in my opinion, be a reason to deny it because of the road width.
Mr. Ammons.
I definitely appreciate the information as it relates to how you make that decision. My question is just based upon, is there a hard and fast rule that this particular road for this purpose, does it have to be 20 feet wide or not?
It can function the way it is now.
And you did say state and if state and federal dollars were used.
Correct.
Is it state and or state or?
Both. Either source.
In either configuration.
Either source.
And this.
And for as a practical purpose, even city dollars. If we were to upgrade the road to an asphalt or concrete street, yes, we would do minimum 10-foot, perhaps wider lane.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mary Alice.
So I will confess, I attempted to go over here and figure out how to get into this neighborhood, and I got lost. It was very confusing. And so I'm wondering if you can walk me through. So if we're talking about traffic patterns, we're talking about the width of the road and potential issues with the size of the vehicles, then what would be how would people get to this property? You have Barr, you have Smith, you have a road I'm not going to pretend to pronounce. Butso? I said that right? Okay. So what would be the entrance? If you can just
Sure.
drive me through that neighborhood.
Yeah, I don't think this is working. Oh, here it is. Does anybody have a laser pointer? Okay, right here is the intersection of University Avenue, 130, 150, and then what here is Guardian Drive, okay? There's a signalized intersection right here. As you travel north, there's an intersection of Butzow Drive. Butzow is one of the property owners, originators of this industrial park in this area, okay? And you would turn or go right and head east on Butzow, and at some point, Butzow becomes Smith Road, okay? And Smith Road is essentially this road, and this is the Arbor Division facility, and this is the subject site. This is one of the mobile home parks. This is the other mobile home park. So to answer your question, how do I get there? If you travel east on University Avenue, go past the entrance, if you will, to the Landscape Recycling Center. I lost my... Here we go. And then you make a left or go north on Guardian Drive, east on Butzow, and this is the way into the site. The Chip and Seal Road essentially starts somewhere in this area here where the concrete Butzow Road ends, and it's a oil and chip roadway surface all in through here.
So basically, if I'm looking at this correctly, any entrance to these mobile homes and to any residential areas, people have to travel through, including the Arbor Division. So
Correct.
currently, the Arbor Division, in order to get to the retired landfill, you have to go this direction, you have to pass all of the entrances to the residential areas.
True, but just to clarify, this is what I would call the employee entrance to the landfill site or the landscape recycling center. The public entrance is further to the west. I just want to make that clear. So keep in mind also that at the intersection, here we go, there's a mobile home park right here also. This mobile home park has been around. Sorry about that. Has been around for many years too, and that is right across the street of the Guardian West bumper plant. So mobile home park here, trucks, cars access big parking lot to this plant. Mobile home park here, mobile home park here. The Flex and Gate Corporation owns this land to the east. They have no immediate plans, but it is land available someday to potentially expand this bumper plant or do some other business expansion in this currently industrially zoned property. So this is industrially zoned that Flex and Gate owns. And of course, this is the closed landfill. This is our landscape recycling center right here. And this is where our forestry and landscape folks operate out of this facility right here.
So, one more follow-up question, sorry. If the whole area is developed and there's a cul-de-sac, there's a road that goes in and a cul-de-sac, who's responsible for building that? Is it the city?
The 11.5 acres here is the developer owner's responsibility. So what you have in the packet shows a conceptual plan, or I'll call it a mini general area plan, arbitrarily shows 4 lots. It could be 2 lots, it could be 6 lots, what have you. But that stub street, that public street, would be at Mr. Borcher's or some future buyer's expense. And that would be a public street. Now that street would meet industrial standards as far as thickness and width and concrete and sidewalks and storm sewers and that sort of thing. But right now his access is a driveway merely off of Smith Road. So if he wants to subdivide, either he would do a cul-de-sac street or maybe he sells the balance of the lot and there's a second driveway off Smith Road. I don't know. Depends on how many lots they want to subdivide.
But it would be the developer's expense to...
Yes, not the city's.
Okay. But it would be a
For the
city-owned
private-
road?
Correct. What
Okay.
happens is it would be dedicated and conveyed to us, being like any other subdivision that occurs, whether it's residential or industrial or commercial. The developer pays and builds the roadway under meeting our standards.
Okay, thank you.
Eric?
So just want to be sure I understand. The Flex and Gate owned property immediately to the west of the property in question is zoned industrial. So
Correct.
So the
It's
property.
zoned industrial? I stand corrected. I shouldn't answer a zoning question.
Yeah.
Thank you. The lot immediately to the east of the cul-de-sac is in the city and it's zoned B3. The lot to the east of that is in the county and that zoning designation is R5.
Oh, no, but
Flex and
you mean, I'm sorry.
That one where the cursor is
I was asking about
now.
the lot to the west of the property in question that's owned by Flex and Gate.
Correct. So,
Th-
thank you,
that's-
Charlie. So this lot here is in the city, and it is city zoning B3.
Oh, okay.
This lot here is not in the city, it's in the county, it is county zoning R5.
Oh, okay. So none of the Flex and Gate properties that are immediately to the west, they're not zoned industrial at all. They're
Not zoned industrial, however, still in the comprehensive plan, the future land use was designated as industrial.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion amongst council? Bill Brown.
Yeah, I'm inclined to support this. I think I've looked at the potential uses for light industrial, and for the most part, they're pretty not very intensive, maybe some light assembly, warehousing, things like that. But I would like some time to look through the minutes from the second plan commission that we just got tonight, and maybe watch the video of the meeting. So I'm not sure I would. If the motion had been forwarded to council with no recommendation, I would be more comfortable. But I would be probably willing to support it at this point and reserve the opportunity to change my mind later if I come across something.
Thank you,
So,
Bill.
I, as the person who made the motion, I mean, since the practical impact of sending it with a recommendation for approval or sending it with no recommendation is really exactly the same, because we've got to take a binding vote next week, and out of deference to the idea that, you know, maybe it's okay to, you know, take a closer look at the minutes of the second meeting, I would be willing to amend my motion to just say send it to council with no recommendation, although I am a little concerned about next week's meeting anyway because of the eclipse. So I may very well not be here. I may not be back from Southern Illinois in time. So, well, anyway, since it will not have an impact on the decision, but I would be happy to amend my motion to conform with Bill's suggestion, if seconder would also agree to that. I just have a little bit of trepidation. I wonder, how time sensitive is this? If we put it off till a meeting where I would be sure to be here and not stuck on the eclipse.
Very, very time sensitive.
It's very time, yeah.
I have to be out of mine November 15th.
Okay. Is being on the road for the eclipse legitimate to call in? No? Ah! Okay. I'm incredibly conflicted. But anyway, I guess it doesn't. I guess the practical import doesn't matter. I'd be willing to modify my motion according to Bill's concern, if the seconder would also be willing. Which was Aaron, I think.
It was Aaron.
Yeah.
Mr. Ammons?
No, I'm not willing to do that.
Okay, well, I'll stand my ground. I'll stand shoulder to shoulder with Aaron then.
Procedurally, Charlie, we'd have to stick with the motion on the floor and vote on it.
Yeah, okay.
All right, Aaron.
Just want to thank you, Mr. Dial, and I would assume Mr. Dial, for coming out and sharing your concerns. Hopefully there can be some communication between the two of you. Certainly appreciate you plowing the roads out there. I've never used that road, but I'm sure other folks appreciate it. But just, can I ask one more question? I'm not the chair. I can't say yes or no to that. I'm sorry. But just really want to thank you for raising those concerns. And thank you for taking the time to come out. Thank you both.
Keep it brief, Mr. Dial. I'll give you one last chance.
When he, Mr. Adam, asked the engineer about if the road is supposed to be 20 feet wide, and he said it's usable. Is that answer means it don't have to be 20 feet wide? I don't know what kind of answer that was.
Well, I thought that when I asked the question about state and federal dollars tied to it, I thought the answer was that it didn't have to be unless there was state and federal, and if we decided as a city that didn't have to be 20 feet wide, that if it was usable, then that was a decision that they would make.
I misunderstood it. Thank you.
That's my understanding, but
Yeah.
I thank you for raising it.
All right, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I guess we're going to take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Seeing none, that motion passes with a recommendation for approval to the full council. All right, attached to this one, I believe is the next ordinance, ordinance number 2017-08-039, an ordinance annexing certain territory to the city of Urbana. Guess we'll...
I was jumping the gun.
Almost there. Letter of the other one, is there a motion from council regarding the annexation?
Just to be clear, which annexation are you talking about?
You're on item number 10.
There were two portions. Item 9 and 10 both pertain to what we've been discussing.
Yes, I move sending item number 10 to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Moved by Eric Jacobson, seconded by Aaron Ammons. Is there any discussion? Let's take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, and that passes as well. All right, coming up next, we have ordinance number 2017-08-045, an ordinance approving an amendment to an annexation agreement. More annexing, different topic.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, I'll try and keep this brief. So this is a request to amend an existing annexation agreement for 2707 Airport Road, which you can see in Exhibit A. It's at the corner of Brownfield Road and Airport Road. And what this amendment would do is it would allow the petitioner to construct a garage that is 1,080 square feet. The Urbana zoning ordinance only allows garages up to 1,000 feet maximum. So at the time of the original annexation agreement in 2009, Mr. Bileski did not foresee that he would like to construct a garage that was 1,080 square feet. And had he known at the time, we could have included that stipulation into the in the original agreement, which is a common practice that we have when we draft annexation agreements, especially for areas like this, which is more rural in character than the more urban areas of the city. Yeah. So the character of this area is, as I just said, it's rural. It's characterized by larger lots and especially larger accessory buildings like larger garages. So we feel that this request would be well within the character of the surrounding area. So the proposed amendment to the annexation agreement would then grant a variance to Mr. Bileski to construct a garage that is up to 1,080 square feet. In this case, the Committee of the Whole can forward this to the City Council and recommend approval. You can recommend approval with any recommended changes, or you can recommend denial. That concludes my report. Staff would recommend a recommendation for approval. Are there any questions?
Are there any? Ms. Mary Alice?
I'm just curious, do you have the dimensions of the plot?
Of the lot? Ooh, that is a good question. Let me see. It's an odd-shaped lot, I can tell you that.
Looks
Is it
like
longer than 120
0.65
feet?
acres.
So it's longer than
is.
120 feet?
Yeah, let's see. So it looks like the top, if you look on the last page of your packet, there's an exhibit that was with the original agreement. The northern edge is is over 235 feet long. The southern is 165. The eastern is 116 about, and the western is 91.
All right. Thank you. Can I make a motion with recommendation to send this to council with recommendation for approval?
So long as there's no more discussion.
I'll second it.
All right. We've got a motion from Mary Alice and a second from Eric Jacobson. Take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have an ordinance approving an amendment to redevelopment agreement between the City of Urbana, Champaign County, Illinois, and 129 North Race LLC. Brandon Boys.
Good evening. I'm going to speak to this agenda item and the next as well for 401 North Broadway Avenue. They are very similar ordinances. Both would authorize the mayor to effectuate a pen and ink amendment to the respective agreements, thereby extending the completion date of each agreement by 1 year, which would go through the end of our current fiscal year. The amendments make no other changes to the agreements, and the projects are on track to be, according to the developer, completed by the end of the calendar year. So this provides additional time, which is common practice. We don't like bringing these agreements back frequently to council if they're only off a little bit. Included in the packets are also updated materials on the tenants for each project. At 129 North Race, this is new information on Analog. It's intended to be a hybrid coffee house / wine bar, so a cafe and a co-working space together. There will be free co-working space that's open to the public, first come, first serve, alongside the bar and cafe uses that are open to the public as well. And then there's also going to be reserved and team co-working spaces that are available at a fee, and that information's all in the packet as well. And then at 401 North Broadway, as you see, the agreement was originally with Broadway Market LLC. The concept's since been updated to be Broadway Food Hall. And the project's actually received already a good amount of local media coverage, but it will have 5 unique food concepts, a bar, pop-up events, and it'll be a large space that can host private events as well. And so I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Boys? Aaron.
So thanks, Brandon. I talked to Matt earlier today, and so I plan to schedule a walkthrough of the place sometime this week so I can check it out as well. And I'm excited about some different possibilities. My question that continues to reoccur for me as it relates to participation in these developments. In my conversation, I learned that we don't have any particular goals set for these types of projects. Is that correct, as it relates to minority participation?
These development agreements predate the inclusion of any disadvantaged business enterprise language. So only the 2 most recent agreements have included that, and staff intends to include it in future agreements.
Okay. Does the UBA, is it outside the scope of the UBA, and maybe I should ask them directly, but I thought you would be able to answer this question, to sort of give them the task or the responsibility of creating a list of MWBEs in the area, or even that we could use in the state?
That conversation had been initiated internally with our with staff who's no longer with the city, but we had intended to have that conversation with our human resources and human relations offices on how to best encourage more disadvantaged business enterprises participating in the activities associated with these development agreements.
Right. No, I understand that part, and I certainly appreciate that. I think we're going in the right direction. I'm saying that UBA in particular, being responsible for or being tasked with creating a list of businesses, because I understand that the city of Urbana is not designed to promote particular businesses, right? But the UBA, that would be their responsibility, right?
I believe that's a topic you could bring up to discuss with them.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Boys? Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion for ordinance number 2017-08-046?
I move that we send ordinance. Can we do this in an omnibus fashion, City Attorney? No? So I move that we send ordinance number 2017-08-046 to council with recommendation for approval.
Second.
It's moved by Aaron Hammond, second by Eric Jacobson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes.
I recommend that we send ordinance number 2017-08047 to council with recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
Moved by Aaron Ammons and seconded by Mary Alice. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion passes. All right, next up we have resolution number 2017-08-051R, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an Urbana Home Consortium subrecipient agreement with Courage Connection for the fiscal year 2017-2018.
So the subrecipient agreements that are on the agenda tonight, this one for Courage Connection and the following two were all stem from the request for proposals that City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium released on January 27th. And so I tried to make 3 different memoranda to discuss each of the 3 very different programs individually, but in my presentation I would like to focus on many of the similarities. And as I mentioned, these agreements do stem from a decision to fund all 3 of these programs conditionally for $150,000 in federal home grant funds to each applicant pending city council approval. 2 of the applicants, Navicor and Courage Connection, because of different reasons, they were also selected to receive project delivery funds, which will help with administration costs. The funding that's being used for these 3 agreements all stems from fiscal year 14-15 and 15-16 federal home funds that are approaching the commitment deadline. So to actually put these subrecipient agreements together, we were required by HUD to prepare an annual action plan amendment for the years in which the funding stems. So that would be 14-15 and 15-16. And that was the subject of a public hearing on March 28th, and it was approved by the Urbana City Council on May 1st. And now, after it was acknowledged by HUD on July 10th, the City of Urbana and Urbana Home Consortium are now prepared to execute these subrecipient agreements pending City Council approval. At its July 25th regular meeting, the Community Development Commission unanimously approved all 3 of the resolutions, forwarding them with recommendation for approval. And what I just passed around were the minutes of that meeting, and just wanted to pass that along and what some of the commissioners' concerns were. Each of the individual, as I mentioned, each of the individual subrecipient agreements focus on a different aspect of affordable housing. The first resolution for Courage Connection would provide funding for their tenant-based rental assistance program. We abbreviate that TBRA, and that program has been very successful over the years, and the city has been funding it for at least the past several years. And it has helped a number of Courage Connection's clients, many of whom are survivors of domestic violence, to achieve permanent housing and in some cases escape homelessness and get them back into a sense of stability. And the rental assistance will cover some of their rent while in some cases they pursue education opportunities, search for jobs, and things of that nature. The Habitat Agreement is like many of the other Habitat Agreements that we have passed in the past. It would provide funding for homeownership opportunities and the development of affordable homeownership in the city of Urbana and in the city of Champaign. And the third agreement for down payment assistance is with an agency that we haven't worked with directly before, Navicor Solutions, based out of Peoria, but they have experience in the Champaign-Urbana community, and they would provide housing counseling to interested and qualified buyers who are hoping to buy single-family residences and use them as their principal residences within Champaign, Urbana, and the unincorporated county, which makes up the Urbana Home Consortium. For the fiscal impacts, as I mentioned, the funding for each of these agreements comes from our federal allocation of home funds. And with that in mind, there is no impact on the city general fund. However, committing these home funds will allow us to meet our home commitment deadline, which is at the end of August. It has been suspended by HUD. That was a very recent development, but we are committed to still meeting that deadline just because it was suspended and not eliminated. We want to do everything in our power to continue to meet that deadline. Programmatically, each of these agreements would be in keeping with our 5-year consolidated plan and our current annual action plan. And for all of those reasons, staff and the Urbana Community Development Commission recommend the Urbana City Council approve each of the 3 resolutions before you tonight. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for staff? Mr. Ammons.
Yes, the Navicore group, they have an office here, or would the individuals who receive counseling have to go to Peoria for that?
We haven't worked out exactly how that would, how the counseling would work. They have a representative. I don't know if she is based in Champaign-Urbana, but she has worked with Habitat for Humanity in the past. I can talk to them and try to see how exactly that would work. It's possible in other instances we've had housing counseling that's been admissible either online or over the phone and been done in that way. But I can definitely talk to our contact with Navicore and get you the answer on that.
That would be extremely important for me. I think that the counseling is critical to make sure that the individuals have the, and I don't think that's something you do online or over the phone. I think it really requires that there be time spent walking individuals through this process, understanding the commitment that they are making to home ownership. I like the counseling aspect of it, but I think it's a bit much to ask people to travel to Peoria to get their counseling. So that's something that would be somewhat of a concern to me. And the amount, the $150,000 for Navicore, is that all, I mean, what percentage of that is going to go towards the actual down payments for homes?
All of it.
Okay. Is that the same for the other 2 programs as well?
Yes. There, as I mentioned, program delivery funds. That's for Navicore and for Courage Connection. That's an additional roughly $27,000 on top of the $150,000. They, for all 3 of those agencies, $150,000 of that has to be used for the purposes that they're to be used for.
And basically, the $27,000 is for the work that they have to do to administrate that.
That's right. Making sure that people are income qualified, going through other requirements, environmental, lead, things of that nature.
Is that $27,000 something that's going to be used to bring in somebody else on a part-time basis to do that, or is that just going to be picked up by current staff in those agencies?
It is usually taken by current staff, but that is entirely up to them, and we don't really have a say in that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ammons. Any other questions for staff? Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
All right. Wait.
Yeah, maybe I do have a question.
Okay. Eric?
So I just want to follow up, be sure I understand the import of Mr. Ammons' questions. So is it possible that some homeowners, prospective homeowners, would not be able to get in-person counseling?
I can't answer that. I can say that if it's a choice between someone not having counseling and not getting the down payment assistance,
Yeah.
I would like to be able to see, there are opportunities that are undertaken by Habitat for Humanity locally through the Community Reinvestment Group, and I would like to be able to work out, as Mr. Hammonds pointed out,
Yeah.
it is important to have the in-person contact, and those agencies offer within Champaign-Urbana in-person classroom setting housing counseling. And if it isn't possible, for someone to get to Peoria, if Navicor isn't able to come to Champaign-Urbana, I would like to be able to work something out with one of those other local agencies to be able to provide housing counseling.
So it's possible that would be able to be worked out, but at the moment, it's not certain that would be able to be worked out.
It's not certain, no.
Okay. What action should we take to make the likelihood of that happening very high?
That's, staff would really need to, we'd need to be able to talk to Navicor first, see what their housing counseling would look like. Is it going to require clients to go to Peoria? And if so, then we need to talk to area banks, Habitat for Humanity, and other agencies locally to make sure that, that we can build in backup plans.
Looks as though
I'll just say we'll make sure that there will be some kind of in-person housing counseling.
Okay, you
Yes.
can do that, be sure that that's going to be available.
We can do that through
locally.
the agreement.
That's right. We can put that in the subrecipient agreement.
Okay.
Okay. And if they are a HUD certified counselor, which there are approved ways that are required. So we will make sure to work with the Navicor.
I think
on
that's
that.
really important because, there's a population here that doesn't have cars, use the buses all the time. And this could be, the inability to be able to get counseling locally could be a deal killer for some of the people whom we most want to, serve.
Mr. Ammons.
Just a quick follow-up. What I have familiarity with is something called a lease purchase program. And we had to go through, individuals went through, it was sometimes based upon your credit score and the way that things were structured. It could take you 6, 9 months or a year before you even qualify for something like that. Are the individuals who would come to this program pre-qualified through their credit, and they just have to sort of have here's what you can expect as a homeowner to have to deal with, or do they have to go through the credit aspect of that as well, making sure that they qualify for homeownership?
There are pre-qualifications that Navicor will use to select their clients for this program and then undergo counseling. And they would need to select people whose credit would enable them to be bankable, to have a bank be able to extend them a loan. And the way this program is designed to be worked, it's underwritten so that our down payment assistance would put them within the range to be able to afford, mortgage payments from a bank that they might not otherwise be able to do.
And I understand that part. I was just trying to see if there was an aspect of that was already taken care of, because the counseling part of it could be much more, a lot less time consuming if that's already taken care of. That's what I was trying to make sure I was understanding.
Yeah, and the clients they have been pre-qualified, and they are pretty far along in the process. Okay. It wouldn't be years, as in with a lease purchase arrangement.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions for staff?
I would also like to point out that the Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity, Sheila Dodd, is in the audience. If you have any questions for her, I'm sure she'd love to come up and answer them.
Any more questions for staff? All right, thanks, Matt.
I would like to ask Sheila a question.
For Sheila?
Yes. just didn't make sense for me to have Habitat for Humanity mentioned as a possible source for counseling and not ask you if you're sitting in the audience. Is that something that's in the cards? Is that possible?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we are in the process of final review of becoming HUD certified housing counseling agencies, but we have provided pre and post-purchase financial coaching, education classes for, since 2006.
And if you all were to be a part of this agreement, is that something that would be, you would just do it for free, wouldn't you, Sheila? Is that right? Is that how that works?
We would have a discussion, but we do have the capacity to handle it. So we'll do what we can to see that the program succeeds.
So now you've opened up another question for Kelly. So Kelly, then that means that there could be a financial cost to the city then. Is that possible? Or is that, no, it would come out of the $150,000?
Or it would come out of
The
home
27
program
funds.
delivery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. All right. Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you, Sheila. Any further questions from the council? All right, well, if not, can I get a motion for item 14?
Go ahead, Dean. I see you.
I was going to second it. I will motion to move item number 14 to City Council with full encouragement to approve.
I will second.
All right, moved by Dean Hazen, seconded by Mary Alice. Is there any further discussion amongst the council? All right, seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Seeing none, that motion passes. All right, next motion. I'm just going to keep going down the line. Can I get a motion to send this to council?
Mr. Miller, could you at least read the ordinance number?
Oh, absolutely. For our next consortium agreement, it's resolution number 2017-08-052R, and this one is for Habitat for Humanity. Is there a motion?
Move resolution number 2017-08-052R to council with recommendation for approval.
Second.
Moved by Aaron Ammons, seconded by Eric Jacobson. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Seeing none, that motion passes. And once more for resolution number 2017-08-053R, this one is the consortium subrecipient agreement for Navicor. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Move to send to council with recommendation for approval. Sorry, Charlie.
I'll defer to Mary Alice.
Moved by Aaron Ammons, seconded by Mary Alice. Is there any further discussion among the council? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Seeing none, that motion passes. All right, and now on to resolution number 2017-08-05R, a resolution approving a City of Urbana Community Developed Block Grant Program Agreement between Courage Connection for Domestic Violence Services Programs, project number 1718-CSSP-01.
Okay.
Kelly.
So before you is this resolution and the other one as well, approving subrecipient agreements for agencies who were approved for funding through the Consolidated Social Service Funding Pool and are partially being funded with CDBG public service funds as required by HUD. These agreements are. The two agencies, Courage Connection Domestic Violence Services Program and the Urbana Neighborhood Connection Center Urbana Youth Development and Employment Program, meet the priorities that were set by the Community Development Commission for these funds, supporting homeless needs and supporting services and training for low-income persons. At its July 25th, 2017 regular meeting, the Community Development Commission reviewed the agreements and voted unanimously to recommend approval of the resolutions to the Urbana City Council. So both staff and the Community Development Commission recommend the Urbana City Council approve the resolutions approving these agreements.
Thank you, Kelly. Are there any questions from the council for staff? Mr. Ammons.
in particular, the Neighborhood Connection Center, these dollars are part of the dollars that we approved for social service. Am
Yes.
I correct? Okay. All right, and I'm just wondering if there's any conversation with the Neighborhood Connection Center on partnering with them on the summer youth employment type of opportunities, since this is what, I didn't know if they had already done that, or if that's something that's coming up for.
Well, these are programs that they already have, which is their Urbana Youth Development and Employment Program for high school and early college. They have some where they meet with youth at the center, and also they meet at the IMC for the older youth. That is certainly something we can talk to them about, if that is part of that, or if they are interested in being a part of that.
Mayor Marlowe.
If I'm not mistaken, I think they did place several students for the Summer Youth Employment Program. Maybe not this year, but in previous years they have. So they have partnered.
We can certainly find out and more updated information about that.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions for staff on this resolution or the following? All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
Move that we send resolution number 2017-08-054R to council with a recommendation for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Aaron Ammons, second by Eric Jacobson. Is there any further discussion amongst the council? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Seeing none, that motion passes.
I recommend that we send resolution number 2017-08-055R to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
I'll second.
Get him, Bill.
Bill got in there. All right, moved by Aaron Ammons, seconded by Bill Brown. Is there any further discussion amongst the council? Seeing none, we'll pull this for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Seeing none, that motion passes. All right, is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss the minutes of previous closed sessions?
I move we go to closed session to discuss minutes of previous closed session.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved by Eric Jacobson, seconded by Dean Hazen.
Quick draw.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Ammons.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Hazen.
Present. Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Wu.
Yes.
And Mayor Marlin.
All right, we will move into closed session.
We're upstairs.
Upstairs. Is there a motion to come back into open session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Bill Brown, seconded by Aaron Ammons. Seeing, we need a roll call vote? Nope. All those in favor of coming back into closed session say aye.
Aye.
Seeing no further business before this committee, we are adjourned.